Now on WKYT Midmorning, thousands of fans and mourners gather in Louisville to say goodbye to the greatest, Muhammad Ali.
Lexington police are investigating a string of armed robberies that happened overnight.
And also residents of a Lexington neighborhood are concerned for their safety after another shooting.
This is WKYT Midmorning.
Welcome the funeral procession in honor of the late Muhammad Ali, the native Kentuckian, being laid to rest today in his hometown of Louisville, and that is getting ready to get started right now. It was supposed to take off at 9 o'clock this morning. They keep moving the time, but once it does get underway, expected to last for about an hour and a half.
A nice aerial view there of the location, and lots of local dignitaries as well as national, and a lot of members of the public able to participate in all this.
We'll continue to keep checking in on that to see the progress. Once it is underway, of course, the procession will go past all kinds of locations that were important to Muhammad Ali during his lifetime. And we do welcome you to WKYT Midmorning. I'm Barbara Bailey. Bill Bryant is on assignment this morning.
And I'm Rebecca Smith filling in today, and we will get back to our live coverage from Louisville in just a moment. But first, let's get a quick check of the forecast from Micah.
Yeah, if you're heading over toward Louisville or people over there, you're not going to expect any rain there, but we do have some rain chances northbound that's rolling down into our northern zones. Now, this is crossing over the river, and once it crosses over the river, it continues to just fall apart each time one shower or thunderstorm does that. And we expect that trend to continue. So southern zones, you have no chance of rain today, but I would say I-64 northbound, that is your best opportunity in the next few hours to actually see a passing shower or thunderstorm. I'll get into that. I'll show you your weekend forecast. It's going to be a hot one. That's coming up.
Micah, thank you. And leading our news at 10 a.m., the entire world is looking in on the Bluegrass State as Muhammad Ali, the legendary boxer, takes one last trip through his hometown of Louisville. Ali will be eulogized at a memorial service later today, which will be attended by celebrities, world leaders, thousands of his fans.
A very important commemoration. WKYT's Mike Byer is in the Derby City and joins us now with more. Hello.
Muhammad Ali's funeral procession hasn't reached the spot yet along Muhammad Ali Boulevard, but I'm going to step out of the shot and give you guys a look right now. Hundreds of people are lined up along the street waiting to say one last goodbye to the champ. Now, the procession was supposed to begin at 9, but it has not started yet. It will be making its way through the streets of Louisville. The procession will pass many places like Ali's boyhood home on Grand Avenue. It will ultimately come to an end at Cave Hill Cemetery, where Ali will be laid to rest. A public memorial service will follow at 2 at the KFC Yum Center. Tickets for the memorial were given out for free and quickly ran out Wednesday. Ali's longtime friend and former President Bill Clinton will eulogize the champ. Other notables taking part in the eulogy are Billy Crystal and Bryant Gumbel. Now, people from all over the world are in Louisville, all who have been impacted by Ali in some way.
His boldness, where you could be yourself. He was comfortable in his own skin, and I think that resonates not only with African Americans but people of all colors and creeds. Just being comfortable in your own skin, just being proud of who you are.
Now, once again, Ali's funeral procession has not reached this spot yet, but when it does, hundreds of people are out here, so it will be quite a scene that I will bring to you on Facebook Live. So go ahead and go to WKYT.com and catch that live in action. Right now in Louisville, Mike Byer, WKYT.
Mike, thank you. Reporting from the processional route, and our Phil Pendleton, also in Louisville, is at the boyhood home of the late champion, and it has been a destination point for people from all over the world. Phil?
There are people here from all over the United States, media from all over the world. I just heard a man give a report for an English radio station talking about the throngs of people here. To say that there's a lot of people here on Grand Avenue would be a major understatement. There are hundreds, probably thousands of people gathered in front of his boyhood home. They began arriving early this morning, many of them paying honor and respect in their own individuals and unique way. We talked to a man who was playing a guitar, an electric guitar, just strumming along some Tracy Chapman tunes. A man with the mural. There was a man with a horse, but the way that the shoes were on there pointed backwards to be a symbol of death. Many people here, some people just simply drove all night to get here. We talked to a man from North Carolina who met Muhammad Ali when he was 12 years old. He and his young daughter drove all night to be here. People waiting patiently, sitting along the street here, waiting to see this procession as it comes through. In Louisville, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
All right, thank you so much, Phil. Here's another look at how Muhammad Ali is being honored today. The funeral procession, which began about 30 minutes ago, traveling 19 miles through the city. It's expected to end shortly at Cave Hill Cemetery, where Ali will be buried. The public memorial service begins at 2 o'clock this afternoon at KFC's Yum Center. Speakers include former President Bill Clinton, Billy Crystal, and Bryant Gumbel. You will be able to watch the memorial service live on WKYT beginning at 2 p.m. We'll also stream it on our website, WKYT.com.
Thousands gathered for the Islamic prayer service held yesterday to honor Ali. Among those who attended were the likes of the Reverend Jesse Jackson, the legendary boxing promoter Don King. The service is a Muslim tradition which asks for forgiveness and entry into heaven, but people of all faiths attended. Now, some people are calling for a Confederate statue in the state capitol to be replaced with something honoring Muhammad Ali. The current statue is of Confederate President Jefferson Davis. Lexington attorney and former state treasurer Jonathan Miller has started a petition calling for the replacement. The debate to remove the Jefferson Davis statue has been going on for years, and Miller says now is the perfect time. However, Ali's Islamic faith will not allow a statue of the legendary boxer.
The Kentucky Theater will be honoring Ali tonight with a showing of the 1996 documentary When We Were Kings. It's about the Rumble in the Jungle, the heavyweight championship match between Ali and George Foreman back in 1974. The showing of When We Were Kings will be at 9:40 tonight. Tickets are $6 a piece.
And here is another live look at the cars queuing up for the funeral procession for Muhammad Ali, which will end at Cave Hill Cemetery. That's on the outskirts of downtown Louisville. It was scheduled to begin at 9 o'clock, then 9:30, but there have been delays. We'll have more live coverage coming up on WKYT News at noon.
And in other news, police are investigating after a string of 3 gas station robberies in Lexington that happened overnight. The suspect fits the same description in all 3, and these robberies all took place within an hour of one another between midnight and 12:45. The first one happened at the Shell station on Nicholasville Road, then at the Marathon on Clays Mill, followed by a robbery at the Speedway on Boston Road. In all 3 robberies, police say the suspect is a man wearing a black hoodie, bandana, and dark pants. Police say he entered each store with a gun, demanded money, and once he got it, he ran out and drove off in a dark-colored SUV. This is the second time this week Lexington police have had to deal with multiple robberies in a short time frame. On Monday, a police chase resulted in 3 men being arrested in connection to a rash of armed robberies. Well, people in a Lexington neighborhood have a lot of questions after police say a random shooting left a man critically injured. We first told you about the shooting yesterday morning. Police say the man was walking with a woman on East Maxwell Street just before 3 when someone shot him in the head. Many people who live in the area now say they're rethinking their safety.
You would think that a quiet place like Lexington, you could walk home at 3 in the morning if you were just hanging out playing games with your friends.
Well, so far, police haven't made any arrests. They say they do not have a description of the shooter. At last check, police told us the victim was in critical condition. His name has not been released.
The trial of a man accused of killing a Lexington man and stuffing his body in a barrel is now in a break until Monday. Mark Taylor faces murder and kidnapping charges for the 2013 death of Alex Johnson. And yesterday, Timothy Ballard took the stand. Earlier this year, Ballard pleaded guilty to kidnapping and evidence tampering in the case and agreed to testify against Taylor. Ballard said that Taylor and Johnson were friends and partners in a marijuana business. He says in December 2013, he drove Taylor to Johnson's house and Taylor lured Johnson to the car. A short time later, Ballard claims Taylor started beating Johnson.
And what's Alex Johnson's condition at this point?
At this point in time,
Yes.
he's still alive
And how do you know that?
because I heard him take his last breath when I drove away.
Do you believe he died in the car?
I believe so.
Defense attorneys asked Ballard if he killed Johnson, and he said no. Police say the barrel with Johnson's body inside was dumped in the Kentucky River.
A Kentucky filmmaker has filed a federal lawsuit against Beyonce. Matthew Folks of Louisville claims the singer stole ideas from his short film to make the trailer for her new visual album, Lemonade. In the lawsuit, Folks claims a senior vice president at Columbia Recording Corporation had been sent a link to his film months before Lemonade debuted, this over email. The lawsuit also names Columbia, Sony Music, and Beyonce's management company. Representatives for Beyonce and the companies have not commented. They're really starting to take these issues seriously with music infringement.
That's right.
Yeah.
So many recent cases. Keep it right here on Mid-Morning. Coming up, some folks at an amusement park get some bonus time on the rides they really didn't want.
And Hollywood honors a man responsible for so many classic musical themes we hear in the movies.
We have some showers and thunderstorms racing southbound, trying to cross over the river. How far south do they go? And when are we talking about these temperatures ramping up? We're going to go over that in your forecast coming up.
Now, your zone-by-zone forecast with meteorologist Micah Harris.
So looking around town, it all depends on where you are. Southern zones look pretty good. A lot of sunshine, few clouds here and there. And then you're looking northbound. You get off into, say, Frankfort. Frankfort's still plenty of sunshine. Look at Lexington at 74 degrees. We actually have the clouds overhead. And that's because of one thing, and that is rain to the north of us. Let's talk about this rain real quick. It's not really going to affect a lot of us. I talked about it this morning, how the northern zones will have the better likelihood of seeing rain today, but don't expect a lot of it. Okay, so we jump northbound. Southern zones look great. Northbound into Covington, Cincinnati, that's a wet go at it if you are traveling that way. But I want you to watch this, okay? You have a lot of lightning strikes. You see that going on? And then watch it kind of fade away. The lightning strikes fade. They actually build back toward Indianapolis. What this means for us is the farther down toward the south that this goes, it actually loses that energy. So as it's crossing over the river, our northern zones in Kentucky will see some rain. Already seeing bits and pieces here and there, but it's going to be fading away here in the next couple of hours. So here's the highlighted area that I've outlined. The better percentages, no doubt about it, farther north, but you still have about a 20% chance of rain. I'd say West Liberty, Moorhead, down 64 all the way to Lexington. Lexington, I still can't rule it out, but for the most part, we're going to stay dry. That's the better percentage of rain today. As the farther north you go, better likelihood it should fade by around 2, maybe 3 p.m. at the latest. So it will fade as it continues to travel southbound the next couple of hours. So today, there at Lake Cumberland, no problems whatsoever out at any lakes down south. You have great weather for the lake weather. Then we head off into Saturday. Boy, is the heat cranked up. 91 degrees, 90 on Sunday with a storm or two. The Lake Cumberland 360 is actually an event with several events going on. Motorcycle rides, bike rides, 5K in the morning, superhero 5K. And if you're heading out there, just know the morning hours, even though the afternoon is 91, morning hours still going to be pretty muggy, but it's going to feel a lot better than 91. I can promise you that. Let's check out your 7-day forecast, and let me show you what's going on the rest of the day today. Mostly north. Remember that with that small chance of rain. Saturday, Sunday, guys, pretty warm in the 90s, and then next week it's mid-80s and also a few rumbles of thunder in the forecast. It doesn't look that bad, but it will feel pretty nasty.
Good pool day.
Yeah,
Yes,
so I keep
absolutely
hearing.
right.
All
Yeah,
right,
right.
thank you. Well, power outages usually cause a lot of problems wherever they happen. And at North Carolina Amusement Park, an outage left a lot of people stuck on the rides.
Yeah, it happened around 8 o'clock last night at the Carowinds in Charlotte. One family there says they were stranded on a ride for more than 2 hours. Can you imagine?
No.
No, that would be miserable. Here's cell phone video one rider, Josh Bryant, took while he was stuck. No one was injured, but a few people, including Bryant, said they would not be going back to the park. And I really can't blame them.
No kidding. They'll have stories to tell, but I'd rather not have those stories to tell.
Oh, man. Can you imagine being stuck upside down? That would be the worst.
Frightening. Well, you'll need more Hamiltons to see Hamilton. Also, Elvis shows up to be honored in New York, and Hollywood honors the maestro of the movies.
Yes, and Danielle Nottingham has your eye on entertainment.
Steven Spielberg joined Hollywood heavyweights on the red carpet last night to honor the man who put so many blockbusters to music. Composer John Williams was given the American Film Institute's Life Achievement Award, America's highest honor for a career in film. Williams did the musical score for such classics as Star Wars, Jaws, and E.T.
As a musician, as an artist, he is in the same level of Mozart, of Beethoven, of all of these great genius of all times.
Williams has 5 Academy Awards, and his 50 nominations are an Oscar record. At last night's Songwriters Hall of Fame induction gala in New York, Elvis Costello, Tom Petty, and Nile Rodgers were among those honored.
We were not just throwing tunes out there. We were throwing songs and they were lasting, and we didn't know they were going to last, but I'm so proud to just be a part of this group.
Other inductees included Wild Thing writer Chip Taylor and the late Marvin Gaye. And if you haven't seen the smash Broadway musical Hamilton, you'll need to save up. Producers of the show have pushed the top premium seats to a record $849 and the cheapest reserve seat to $179. And that's your Eye on Entertainment. Danielle Nottingham, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Got to see that show. Love
That's
it.
great.
Well, are you looking to buy a home to remodel or possibly even flip?
We have some expert advice on keeping with the trends next on WKYT. And tonight's Mega Millions jackpot, $280 million. Tomorrow night's Powerball jackpot is $141 million.
We're glad you're with us today. The housing market is booming here in central Kentucky, and that has many people buying and remodeling, often with the intent to flip and sell a home.
Yes, and Jeremy Kelly, owner of Kelly Building Company, is here with some tips for staying with the trends nowadays. Welcome in. So what are people looking for in terms of, I guess, their counters, I would presume?
Yeah, well, we're finding that a lot of people are like these the more modern colors or things are in fashion right now. A lot of them have gray tones to them, okay? So even when you go to countertops, people like this gray color, the gray and white. A lot of people like this Carrara marble. That's where they first go to, but marble's really soft, gets stained really easy. Now this is actually quartzite. It's a type of granite that's really dense, that doesn't stain very easily, and looks great in most all kitchens.
And is the kitchen, is that where a lot of people really want to kind of get started?
Yeah.
Is that a big place?
Well, you know, when you're talking
difference?
about, kitchens are a great place to invest, especially if you're going to live there for a while. Now, what we're finding is a lot of people are like, hey, what do I need to do to sell my house right now? Because I want to sell and I want to find a different location. You know, and studies show that your front door is your best return on investment. A lot of people neglect the front door because they go in through a garage and they just don't think about it. But that is where the first impression happens for a potential buyer. So the door knob may replace that, the nice doorknob, replace the door, make sure everything's painted, so you get that first impression to go really well.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So is it a buyer's or seller's market right now here locally?
Definitely a seller's market. We're seeing many people getting more than asking price for their sell price.
Well, that's always good.
Yeah.
So what are some easy things that we can do in terms of our kitchens? You were talking about the countertops. Also, maybe would painting the kitchen cabinets be kind of one of those easy refreshers?
Well, you know, sometimes painting cabinets can be a little difficult. We always say, hey, the walls, if you want a good freshen up of your house to make it look nice, let's start with painting the walls.
Okay.
And sometimes these real bold colors don't show well. So we say, hey, let's go with a neutral. But the neutrals need to have a gray undertone to them again. So if it's a light blue, let's make sure it's a light grayish blue. Make sure to cut those colors. A lot of times we'll start with the first coat, cut it by 50% white to give kind of that light whitewash, a little look to it. Has a little gray undertone to it to make sure all your furniture and fabrics really pop.
Okay,
so as people want to have those ideas, give a call and get started.
Yeah, we can help you out.
It.
We have interior designers on staff that can help you out.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Today, I'm recommending that we have fast food for dinner. I'm not talking about fast food as in burgers and fries or a bucket of chicken, but what I am talking about is fish. Trust me, since it cooks so quickly, it's very weeknight friendly. And the one we're making today is 5-star special. We start off by seasoning a few pieces of cod, haddock, or your favorite white flesh fish with a bit of salt and pepper. We set them aside while we mix together some mayo with a tablespoon of Parmesan cheese, a bit of chopped garlic, and a splash of lemon juice. Once that's mixed, we spoon it over our fish. This will keep it nice and moist and give it tons of flavor. Right before baking it, we finish these with some crumbled crackers that we tossed with a bit of butter. That's it. In about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how thick the fish is, it's done. You see, as the fish bakes, the Parmesan topping sort of puffs up and the buttery crackers get all crispy. The true test happens when you take your first bite and discover how moist and flavorful it is. I do hope you'll go online and get the recipe for our 5-star fish fillets, so you'll be able to enjoy fast food that's not only good for you, it's 5-star special. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a quicker way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
A recipe for you this weekend, but it'll be steamy out there, right?
You were just saying, I've never seen you pay so much attention to what he's cooking. You are focused in. That will look good right there. And if you are grilling out, know this. And toward the afternoon, evening, it is going to be steamy, not only today, but Saturday and Sunday too. So it's one of those times early on that you can do it. Maybe a nice little lunch. That's the best time to do that. We'll be talking about these 90s for this weekend at noon.
Sounds good to me. And we have a live look at the procession, the route there. You can see some people coming out where you understand those are family members of Muhammad Ali's funeral service, which is set to take place at 2 p.m. We hear there's a little bit of a delay.
And the coffin is now going into the hearse to get started. Once it gets started, it should take about an hour and a half, and it will be going around all of these important places that were important to Ali as he grew up in Louisville. And we'll be back at 10. Hope to see you then. Bye-bye.